According to ACON, the Australian Workplace Equality Index, or AWEI for short, is an internationally recognised gold standard national benchmarking instrument for LGBTQ workplace inclusion in Australia. An evidence-based instrument that assesses each submission against a comprehensive rubric enabling the determination of current and leading practice annually, developed and assessed by Pride and Diversity, Australia's not-for-profit employer support program for LGBTQ inclusion. The survey, which is free to enter and can be completed annually, is the jewel in ACON's crown of workplace ideological influence.
My lord, Gandalf the Grey is coming. He's a herald of woe.
The courtesy of your hall is somewhat lessened of late, Theoden King.
He's not welcome.
Why should I welcome you, Gandalf Stormcrow?
A just question, my liege. Late is the hour in which this conjurer chooses to appear. Last spell I name him. Ill news is an ill guest.
Before the official scoring even begins, ACON requires participating organisations to disclose negative press and complaints they have received over the last year relating to LGBTIQ+ issues in a struggle session-esque display of immediately bending the knee. ACON further advises that up to 25 points may be deducted if any confessed incident is significant enough and ACON deems the organisation's response was insufficient.
Confess.
My son.
Let me speak to her. Confess. I meant it. My face will be the last thing you see before...
The index covers 10 sections in total, and Victoria Police submission covers 60 pages across those 10 sections, so I won't be going through it in its entirety, as quite frankly it's repetitive and boring, but it will be linked in the description below. Sections 1 and 3 are the most important for demonstrating ACON's influence over the publicly funded departments which participate. In this video, I'll be focusing on Section 1. Section 1 is worth 27 points out of a total 200 available for the survey and covers the areas of trans and gender diverse inclusion and lists such things as gender affirmation policy, dress code and uniform policy, removing gendered language and gendered requirements, gender affirmation leave, gender-neutral bathrooms in facilities, forms, non-binary gender options, IT systems, non-binary gender options, special recruitment pathways for trans and gender-diverse applicants. Section 1 is unique in that it is the only section in the AWEI where results can be carried over for a 3-year period, whereas all other sections require annual evidence with the submission to gain the points. There are several notable and concerning questions when it comes to Section 1 of the AWEI. Question 9 in the section, Bullying and Harassment, VicPol has a specific policy dictating that transphobic conversations and using incorrect pronouns constitutes bullying and harassment. It goes without saying that no decent person supports actual bullying or harassment, but as this policy is so broadly defined, it's impossible for employees of VicPol to know what crosses the line and what doesn't, especially as transphobic is given no real definition in the policy. Furthermore, compelling employee speech via enforced pronoun usage is a huge overstep by an employer. Public employers cannot compel employees to hold specific ideological or religious views on any particular matter one way or the other, and compelled speech via pronoun usage goes against fundamental human rights of freedom of thought and expression, particularly if an employee is demanding others use pronouns outside the standard she, her, or he, him pronouns, such as non-binary ones like they, them.
Not that specific example, but I have had people who have said those really
stupid a-hole things. And how I've tended to handle it is I've kind of pretended as if I think they are reporting somebody else's thought. So, yeah, rather than them saying, "Oh, I want to be identified as an attaché helicot," I would say something, "Yeah, it's funny. Like, we hear this. We hear people say this and they think it's funny. And of course it's ridiculous." So I've called them an idiot to their face without actually having said it. And that's how I've handled negative stuff a fair few times.
Be silent. Keep your forked tongue behind your teeth. I have not passed through fire and death to bandy crooked words with a witless worm. Stop.
Question 13. Dress codes and uniforms. VicPol have highlighted in answer to this question they have a specific policy which is unique to non-binary employees who are required to work in civilian clothing. They will receive the maximum civilian clothing allowance from the organization solely because they identify as non-binary. This means that VicPol will give non-binary employees the maximum amount of money allowable under legislation to supplement the purchase of clothing to wear to work, which, to the best of my knowledge, those identifying as men or women are not entitled to. Question 15. Gender-neutral bathrooms and facilities. VicPol advised that 79 out of 311 stations currently have all-gender toilets and/or shower and change room facilities, with more planned, and that their new headquarters, where 7,400 members, or 34% of their workforce, will have gender-neutral facilities as well. Gender-neutral facilities seem a largely pointless exercise in virtue signaling. They serve no real purpose other than to cater to the narcissism of a small group of employees within any organization at the expense of the majority of female employees who certainly have legitimate concerns about safety, privacy, and security when it comes to sharing such a space with male employees, regardless of how they identify.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was a big kind of pushback on you need to protect. In this instance, it was somebody who would be using women's bathrooms, and there was this big pushback on you need to protect women who are in fear. And it was really difficult to navigate that conversation in any way without, I don't know, alienating so many people in the room. It was really hard. So it just got left.
It just makes me sad every time I hear that conversation, and unfortunately we hear it so much. And this is one that started to get really pushed to the front through that marriage equality plebiscite. We were talking about two people getting married, and then suddenly the whole conversation shifted, and we were suddenly talking about trans people. Trans people shouldn't be allowed to use bathrooms. Trans women are just really men in dresses, and they're pretending to be women so they can go and predate upon women and girls. Women and girls need to be feeling safe in their bathrooms and changing rooms. It's just awful. It's so damaging. And the fact that you're in a university which is a service provider for vulnerable people, and you can't even have that conversation, it's a sorry state of affairs, and it's unfortunately where we are in Australia at the moment when we're talking about trans and gender diverse populations.
Question 18. Trans and gender diverse applicants. VicPol have a targeted recruitment programs aimed at LGBTIQ persons. They are operating from the flawed belief in standpoint epistemology that the fact that they are LGBTIQ will somehow make them better police, and that regular heteronormative police are unable to police LGBTIQ persons impartially or fairly because they lack the understanding. It's a false assumption, and frankly a disgusting one. Section 1 also highlights explicit LGBTIQ inclusion in policy documents that apply to the whole organisation, merely for the sake of it. As an example, family-related leave or domestic and violence-related policy, which any reasonable person would understand applied to everyone equally, must specifically have a section on how the leave applies to and is for employees who are LGBTIQ to obtain full points for that section. The AWEI also scores organisations on how well their third-party service providers align with ACON's progressive values, thereby encouraging larger organisations to persuade smaller contractors in aligning with their progressive values or face the risk of losing business or lucrative government contracts. VicPol have the Gender Equality and Inclusion Command, which is dedicated to promoting and instituting progressive policies throughout the organisation that are legislated by the state government and pushed for by organisations such as ACON via their AWEI. As of 2021, VicPol's own internal workforce diversity data indicated that only 0.76% of their workforce identify as LGBTIQ+, meaning these broad changes are being instituted across VicPol and other government organisations to cater to a minority of a minority and to score meaningless points on an award scheme run by the same organisation that not only scores them, but then also offers them training and consultation to improve the score on the survey they run and administer to improve for next time, all on the taxpayer's dollar.
Through somebody in the organisation to an agency in the same cluster but outside of DPC, and it was Legal Aid New South Wales. So somebody from Legal Aid New South Wales had been to the training, they've received the training deck, they've taken it upon themselves to distribute it amongst their employees. 6 months later, they had had an anonymous complaint from an employee, and it wasn't. It was very, very clear that it was one of those prepared turf group complaints. So we just need to be really, really careful that we are reporting, not advocating. We're not an advocacy group. We're not a lobbying group. No matter what our feelings are, we need to take this very, very careful line on what we're actually saying now. This session was designed to give people confidence to present this, which was a new content sort of early last year, and know what to present, but also what not to present, because we have been under great deals of scrutiny, particularly around trans and gender diverse, both from anti-LGBTQ groups and also the TERFy groups.
Hearken to me. I release you from the spell.
You have no power here, Gandalf the Grey.
I will draw you, Saruman, as poison is drawn from a wound. If I go, Theoden dies. You did not kill me. You will not kill him. Rohan is mine. Be gone.
Thanks for watching and listening. If you found this video interesting or helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I'd love to hear from you as well, so please leave a comment below or find me on Twitter at the link below. Thank you and goodbye.